Hey guys, so I'm back with another one of my mystery videos. I'm sort of branching these weekly videos under the umbrella. My cat. I'm sort of branching these weekly videos under the kind of broad umbrella of mystery videos because I think it's the easiest way to explain them. Obviously in the future I might change things up a bit and there might be an odd video on... Oh my goodness! Pigs! So yeah, in the future I may change this up at some point, like there may be the odd video on something a little less mystery related, I don't know yet, but yes, also I'm very sorry for missing the Sunday upload. I was away in Chester for a week and I stayed longer than I initially expected to, so I didn't have a video prepared and then ended up staying over for Sunday, so I'm sorry about that, but I'm getting this up to you today instead. I've got my coffee and this is going to be a little bit of a shorter one. This isn't like full of loads of theories or anything, it's just kind of, again, like the Silent Twins one, a little bit more of an interesting, kind of strange experience. So today I'm going to be talking about the case of Bobby Dunbar, and he was potentially, after he went missing, his parents were potentially provided, they were reunited with possibly the wrong child. It was just kind of an interesting case. I'd seen, while doing research for some things to talk about, I came across it a few times, and like I said, there isn't loads and loads of like theories or anything, so it didn't initially scream out to me, but it was very interesting, so I thought I would discuss it today. I'm sorry if you can hear my cat at any point in this video. She is right here and she's purring really loudly. For some reason she's chosen now to come in here while I'm filming. Okay, so moving on to the case of little Bobby Dunbar and his disappearance. So on August 23rd, 1912, Percy and Leslie Dunbar took their two sons out to a lake. So they had two sons called Bobby and Alonzo, and they took them to a lake in Louisiana. I have the name here, it's Swayze Lake in Louisiana. Bobby, or Robert, was 4 years old and he disappeared on this fishing trip. Apparently he just kind of strayed from the cabin while the other three of the members of the family were eating. He was 4 years old, so obviously it happens, he could have just wandered off. I don't really know. I couldn't really find too much about what actually happened because obviously it was quite a while ago, but it said that he literally just strayed away from the cabin and he wasn't seen. So obviously when the parents realised that the 4-year-old had gone missing, they called the authorities straight away, and the authorities searched the surrounding areas, but they did not find virtually anything that could help them. One of the only clues they found were barefoot footprints leading out of swamps into a rail, like towards a railroad trestle. So they just saw these little bare footprints. There were also anonymous reports of a man like lurking in the area around the time that Bobby went missing, so they did conclude that he had been abducted. Obviously there was no solid evidence, but they had a strong reason to believe that he had been taken. So after the investigation kind of didn't really provide any solid leads, obviously they had to return home because they were just on a trip. So they went home. I can't say the name of where they lived, but I'll put it on the screen now. And as you can imagine, when they returned home, it had been quite a big news story. It was well known that this 4-year-old son had gone missing. So the town that they lived in raised, I think it was $1,000 towards the investigation to help further research. Then 8 months later, in 1913, authorities finally made a breakthrough in the case. They found a man who was named William Walters. He had been travelling through Mississippi with a little boy who matched virtually identically to the description of Bobby. Obviously when they were alerted of this, they took Mr. Walters in, and he claimed that it wasn't Bobby Dunbar, the boy that he was travelling with. It was in fact a boy called Charles Bruce Anderson, who was the son of, I believe, someone who worked for his family, Julia Anderson. So he had been given permission from Julia to take him on his travels because he travelled around Mississippi for work. So he was just travelling with him because he'd been given permission by the boy's mother. One of the things he said was that the boy doesn't respond usually to Charles, which is his first name, but more so to his middle name, which is Bruce. I actually later found out that Bruce, or Charles, but I think I'm going to refer to him as Bruce in this video, was the illegitimate child of Julia Anderson and William Walters' brother. But William was arrested because they didn't believe his story, and obviously they were just on the search for Bobby. When the Dunbars were informed of this, they travelled out to Mississippi to identify him and potentially take him home. Initially he didn't respond to Bobby or Robert, which is obviously the name of their son. So that was a bit weird at first, but again, it is also kind of a bit difficult to say because he was only 4 when he went missing. When they were first reunited, he didn't recognise his brother or his parents. So I believe they took him home, and then the next day Leslie was bathing him, Bruce or Bobby, whatever is referred to at this point, and while she was bathing him she recognised specific moles and scars that she was pretty sure that he was her son. So not long after this, Julia Anderson arrived to back up Walters' story and just to claim that he was her son. But when she was presented with a lineup of I think 5 young boys, she couldn't point out which one was her son, Bruce or Bobby, which is obviously quite concerning. But then it said that the following day she was able to, so I'm not sure what happened there, but it's just said that the first day she couldn't distinguish who was her son. The courts ended up granting custody to the Dunbars and basically saying that they had been reunited with Bobby, that he was in fact their son. And because of this, Walters was then charged with a kidnapping charge because they believed that he had stolen, or he'd aided in some way the abduction and kidnapping of Bobby Dunbar. Walters' trial was held in Louisiana, and Julia Anderson had gone along because I think she continued on holding on to this hope that she could reclaim what she believed to be her son, or what she was claiming to be her son. It's said that many residents of a town in Mississippi, I think the town was Poplarville, attended his trial because he had made quite a few friends in his travels. He travelled there quite a lot with the boy, and they've made a lot of friends there, so a lot of them turned up to help his case in any way they could. But Walters was sentenced to life, even though he only did end up spending 2 years in prison. His attorney managed to successfully appeal his trial, and they called for a retrial, which is good, I guess, for him. Initially this was a good sign, but then prosecutors denied him the chance to try again because it was just, the costs were it was such a high risk and it was so expensive to have to go through it all again. So he didn't end up going back to jail or anything, so he just lived his life as innocent, and I think he died in the late 1930s, so he just pretty much got off after 2 years of prison. While all these trials and things were happening, Julia Anderson ended up befriending a lot of the residents of Poplarville, and she ended up moving there. So eventually down the line she remarried in Poplarville and she had 7 children. She turned a new leaf pretty much. It's said that she became a really devout Christian and she helped with a lot of church things. I think she helped found a church. So she lived out her life. She started a new life pretty much. And it's said that her children that she'd had in Poplarville said that she was happy in Poplarville, but she often spoke of her lost son Bruce. And Anderson's children and family often referred to Bruce as being kidnapped by the Dunbars as opposed to being kidnapped by Walters. So as a family they were brought up to believe that the boy was in fact Julia Anderson's son, and she had him taken away from her unfairly, so she often kind of held on to this hope throughout her life. The boy was raised as Bobby Dunbar. Later in life he went on to have I think 4 kids, so he continued out his life as Bobby Dunbar even though initially he couldn't remember that life, and he then passed away in 1966. Then quite a few years after his death, one of the granddaughters, Margaret Dunbar, actually wanted to continue this investigation. She wanted to do her own research into his background, just to kind of put like a final underline on everything and actually find out the solid truth. Initially she'd hoped to find out that she could just confirm that she was in fact blood related to Dunbar, but she didn't actually find this, which is really quite interesting. So she did some research into their genes and their genetic heritage, and she found out that grandfather was actually Charles Bruce Anderson, who is obviously not Bobby Dunbar but Julia Anderson's son. After these findings came out, the family split. There was a huge divide. A lot of people weren't happy, but then a lot of people were happy that there was a kind of final underline on the whole situation. But then in 2006, Bobby Dunbar Jr., who was the son of the boy raised as Bobby Dunbar, decided to take, I think it was a DNA test with his cousin, who was the son of Alonzo Dunbar, the brother of Bobby Dunbar, and the test actually proved that they had no blood relation whatsoever. So it was pretty solid evidence that the boy raised as Bobby Dunbar wasn't Bobby Dunbar. He was in fact Charles Bruce Anderson, and the police had reunited the Dunbars with the wrong child. Yeah, it's just such a fascinating story to me because you just, I don't even know. Obviously there was an actual answer to this eventually, just showing that he wasn't Bobby Dunbar, but it's just such a weird story because I don't know what, like, we don't know to this day what happened to the real Bobby Dunbar when he was 4 years old, whether he was taken, whether he wandered off and got lost. No one knows where he is now. So it's just such a tragedy that Charles Bruce Anderson was taken away from his legitimate family, and yeah, it's just such a strange thought. So let me know what you guys think, if you have seen any theories like that about what happened to Bobby Dunbar, and also if there are any other like cases you want me to discuss. Obviously I think next week I'll be doing something a bit more disappearance related, like theories and things, so I'm going to film I think another one maybe now. So yes, let me know if there are any other cases you want me to do, and I hope you found this just as fascinating as me, and I'll see you guys soon for another video. Bye.